Welcome to the Ecomminsiders podcast. My name is Debbie, and this event is being sponsored by SPCTEK. Today's topic is unlocking e-commerce momentum, the fulfillment secrets to driving massive growth. And my guest is Paul Jarrett. He's an entrepreneur and logistics expert, co-founder and CEO of Bulu. Paul Jarrett is a logistics entrepreneur with the inside scoop for outsiders. He was born in a Nebraska trailer park, honing team skills on the football field and earning his chops working from New York City to San Francisco. Paul shares rare perspectives from doing. From launch to scale to optimization, Paul's honest and authentic cut the ship approach has attracted giants like American Express, BuzzFeed, Clorox, and Disney to join the Bulu roster. As CEO, co-founder, and now co-owner of Bulu, the goal is simple: empower any company to ship like a major brand. You can find out more at Bulu Group, that's BULUGROUP.com, or Paul Jarrett, PaulJarrett.com. All right, let's get started with some questions, Paul. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And what a wonderful intro. I'm looking for whoever that cool guy is right now. So thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome. Tell me, what inspired you to start Bulu and what unique vision did you have for the company?
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs like to they have this kind of big why or they have kind of this really introspective thing. And I feel like I have that thing that people want to hear. But if I'm really honest, I think I've just always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder with authority. And I've just kind of wanted to do my own thing. And once I was living in San Francisco and I really was hanging out with a lot of startup and a lot of entrepreneurs and really kind of dissecting the concept of when you solve a hard problem for somebody, you can charge money and kind of build a business around that. That was kind of like my ticket on my way, to do my own thing and to start my own company. Because my co-founder, who I happen to be married to, Stephanie, and we worked at a lot of advertising and marketing firms. And we were kind of known for like doing creative off the wall things or solving really hard problems for brands. And we thought, hey, let's do this ourselves and actually have a piece of the pie versus work 80 hours and do it for other people. And, it's never good enough. So I think that was, ultimately, even my parents, they'd say from a young age on, Paul's always had a bit of a problem with authority. So, ultimately, I think I just had to have kind of my own thing and do my own thing.
How would you say that personal journey just has shaped your leadership style and your approach to business?
Yeah. When we first started the company, I had my hands in everything. I would say I was the best micromanager you would ever meet, which is the worst micromanager, right? And everything from you know, I was the person that you'd have to come to for passwords or for keys or for anything, HR, rent, like whatever, everything passed through me. And the irony is that that almost created more handcuffs than working at a professional job, right? Every time somebody needed something, I was the first phone call, I was the first text, I was the first email. I knew the answer to everything. And I think that's what I thought you were supposed to do. And maybe you were in the beginning, but I definitely noticed by about year three, there was just too much stress, too much going on. And I remember I started calling other entrepreneurs that I knew that were happy and had time. And I started interviewing all of them. And I did almost 50 of them. I did like 47 of them. And really, the thing that I took away from it was like, man, I have to let go and I have to hire people that I can trust or trust the people that I've hired. And I would say that, ultimately starting a company and wanting to do your own thing and then going through the like handling every single detail, you become chained to your business, right? And really taking a step back and focusing in on what I'm good at and finding people that are good at the things that I'm not great at, and trusting them and empowering them. And also, frankly, like holding them accountable to do those things. The person I am now versus 12 years ago, I mean, we wouldn't even recognize each other, and we'd probably think we were both idiots for different reasons, right? And now, I just do two or three things and I get out of the way. And one of those things is always focusing on talent and kind of leadership, but I don't even really manage people. I put other people in charge of that. So yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride, but that's the thing, is you got to let go. And if you want to scale and grow, you got to find the right team and the right people to do that for you.
Yeah, I have to really commend you for actually picking up the phone and making the phone calls because, a lot of times that changes have to happen. You
Mhm.
don't know what they are, and you're almost afraid to admit to somebody, hey, I need to just ask you about this because I'm not doing it well.
I always say that people, entrepreneurs, business people are just in life, and myself in particular, is I'm almost like maybe the best way I can describe it is I'm at my worst when I don't even know the questions to ask.
Mm.
Right. And by calling people and getting the language and getting the questions, and I will still to this day call customers and say, like, I don't even know what I'm trying to ask you. I'm just looking for a problem, or I'm trying to do this thing. Like, help me figure out how to ask this question correctly. Right. And that is so valuable to learn how to ask great questions and learn how to develop those questions and work with the right people. And that is one thing that I will say that the smartest people I know all have in common. They ask amazing questions. And
Mm.
that's not natural for me. So I got to do a little bit of homework before I can figure out what questions I need to have answered. And usually that alleviates a lot of the whatever kind of difficult problem or difficult stage in life I'm in.
Yeah. What do you think was the most significant challenge that you faced when you were building Bulu, and how did you overcome it?
I would say, going back to a little bit of like letting go of things and trusting people, that was internally and personally hard. But as I look back, I would say probably the hardest thing that we ever had to do is we started the company and we were a venture capital funded company. So we had millions of dollars. We raised a second round of capital. And there was always kind of investors and people, lawyers, investors, accountants there to kind of back us. In October of 2023, my co founder and I bought the business. And that negotiation and kind of in a weird way becoming a first time business owner, like after 10 years of owning a business,
Yeah.
and looking up and going like, oh, where are the accountants? Where are those lawyers? Where are those investors? We have to learn those things, or we have to go hire out and get those people. That was really tough, but also it's been hands down the best thing that we ever did. So just that weird, after 10 years, you're like, oh, I'm actually taking not just, the first leap to starting a business and getting venture funded, but truly a second leap into like, this is going to be our own thing. There's nobody we can point the finger at. And that was tough because we weren't sure if we are going to do it, but now it was absolutely the right decision looking back on it.
So tell us a little bit about the services that Bulu actually provides.
So we provide, we like to say the basic thing that we provide is store, pack, ship for consumer packaged goods. And I just tell people straight up, we mark that up about 10%. That's how we make our money. But the thing that really separates us from everybody else is the consumer packaged goods or CPG brands. We work with a lot of vitamin, makeup, snacks, pet products, outdoor products. If they work with us, they're able to ship to any channel, any sales channel that they want. So B2B, yes, Target, Walmart, etc. D2C, direct to consumers home, and even through social media. So what we're finding is a lot of people, oh, and on top of that, I should add any amount you want. So we are getting a lot of clients by simply saying, hey, you can go to mom and pop's retail stores and you can sell them one or two of your consumer packaged goods. It doesn't have to be a pallet, doesn't have to be a case. You just go out there and sell. And if you want to sell to people's homes where they can buy direct, or even through live selling streams or social media streams, don't worry about it. We'll get the product there the way that it's supposed to get. And that's pretty unique because most
Yeah.
companies, 3PLs in our position, they're really strict on they either do B2B or D2C. And we do both. And then any amount. And then when we toss on top of that, like we do a lot of kitting and special projects. So advent calendars,
Mm.
yes. Subscription boxes, yes. gift, a lot of gifts, and just a lot of unique things. So people, we say, come to us for like the tricky ship, like that's why they come with us, but they stay with us because our prices are competitive and we do pick and pack with 98.6% accuracy, which, everybody wants to say 100, but if you really get down to the nuts and bolts of it, we know exactly how we're doing. So
How do you think the e-commerce shipping and logistics, because some of the stuff you're telling me, you're right, the other guys aren't doing it. How have you seen it kind of evolve over the past few years? And what do you think the key trends are that are actually going to shape the industry?
what's wild is when it comes to shipping and logistics, I have to say it's like embarrassing how much it has not evolved. That's probably one of the hardest things to realize. And what took us so long to offer a simple service is we thought that what we offered, omni-channel shipping, any amount and any package, we figured there was a lot of people doing it. What we figured out after time is there's a lot of people that say that they can do it, but they don't really do it, right? And so I would say that in the shipping and logistics field in general, there are so many problems to solve. And we, during our ownership of the company over 12 years, about year 5, we built and sold the software. So I almost think at heart, we're a bit of like software geeks that like happen to stumble upon a warehouse. And frankly, we are solving the problem in logistics now that we had with our first product, which was a subscription box called Bulu box. So the irony of we were never able to sell our original subscription box in retail. We never found a fulfillment company that could do it at a price that made sense and made us margin. And almost 12 years later, we had to do it and we have to offer it to people. So I think, and then the other thing is to find a fulfillment center that can do it in scale. So I think that there, as far as technology and innovation, man, logistics is one of the number one places that the opportunity is sitting. And I think the biggest mistake that people are making, because you do see a lot of software and you see a lot of stuff come, but I'd boil it down to like nobody's talking to the people on the floor. And if you can see where I'm at right now, I'm actually in the middle of our warehouse, right? Because the one thing that you do learn working in a warehouse is that if the people on the floor don't want it to happen, it's probably going to magically not happen. So getting that buy-in and working with people, I think that is the number one thing. And if people built software and built solutions and truly hit the floor and have the people who are packing the boxes like on the floor try them out, I think that's where you need to start with innovation and logistics. I think that's the big part that people are missing and why it hasn't really evolved. I think the biggest opportunity now is live selling. I think we've started to get into delivery for live selling. We've seen our clients go to, Amazon Live, shops, whatnot, and people being able to click and buy and get that right away. Even like a QVC, right? Or I'd say even like TikTok shops. I think that's the biggest opportunity. But again, you need to be able to get that there on time, on plan, and on budget. So that's been our focus recently, is a lot of live sales and a lot of live shopping. And I think that by far that will be the number one opportunity over the next 5 years for e-commerce.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about being on time and on budget and stuff. What do you think are the key metrics that a business should track if they're going to measure the performance of their fulfillment operations?
Oh man, there's the thing that I've learned in this industry is that there's a lot of terms used a lot of different ways and they're defined a lot of different ways. And
Mm.
that's, it almost leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I hate to say it, being kind of we would call ourselves a 5PL, but like the category of 3PL, third party logistics. I don't think I've met one that I've liked, and we're in the industry, right? And it always feels like you're just chasing it and it's smoke and mirrors. So I would look less at the KPIs and I would look more at whoever you're working with, compare them to other fulfillment companies. I
Mm.
don't think there's anything wrong with every year or every 3 years putting out an RFP and keeping your company, on their toes and making sure you're getting the right price. Now, I will say You want to see the shipping rates. You want to push and see how much margin that they're making off of shipping and how much you're keeping. There's just certain KPIs that different companies are going to give you to make themselves look good. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, you got to go out there and get quotes for storage, packing, and shipping. You got to go out there and put out RFPs, and you have to, I would say, don't look for the cheapest. Obviously, don't just go with the most expensive because you think they're the best, but really like go with the right fit for you. That is probably the most important thing. And if your 3PL is a good partner, you want to keep those people around. So don't be afraid if the price increases because shipping increases, salaries, wages do. Your price might increase too. So, but I think the main thing is you want to compare and don't just leave somewhere. Like take those numbers and go back to who you're working with and say, hey, explain this. I got this quote for this thing. Why do you guys look different? Because 9 times out of 10, it's just the language and the wording that's different.
Yeah, semantics.
Yep.
Absolutely. We tell people the same thing when you're sourcing product. If you've had a product for a couple of years and stuff, it's time to see what other manufacturers can make it and stuff. You may not end up switching at all, but
Yeah.
it's how you stay in tune to what's going on in the industry.
Same thing with your home and auto insurance, right? You want to go out there and price it.
So how do you think businesses can leverage the AI and machine learning to operate or optimize, excuse me, the fulfillment processes and improve your decision making?
Yeah. I think that we're in the infancy of AI in one sense where consumers can use Chat GPT. We use it internally. We might feed it layouts of the warehouse and ask like what the best layout is. We've used it for legal. We've used it for negotiating leases. We've used it to pull market rates. We've connected it to our CRM. So we're able to ask Chat GPT what the best list of clients this week for this salesperson is, right? But I think ultimately it's something that people don't need to worry too much about because a lot of software has had AI in it for a long time, right?
Yes.
People just haven't known it. So I would say, don't sweat it if you're not like a super tech or you're not kind of diving into AI, because odds are it's being used for you or within software. But when you do see the opportunity, like say we use Google and a lot of our team is starting to use Gemini and kind of
Yeah.
learn that, right? Take those opportunities to learn those things and just it's kind of like you just got to kind of tinker with it, and so many times our team kind of jokes about using it and then we find out like, oh wow, we're actually using it a lot for contracts, we're using it a lot for legal, we're saving on legal bills, or even content development. So I say dabble in it, try it, don't laugh it off, but on a grander scheme, don't worry too much about it because software is going to build it in for you.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, how old do you think Siri is?
Oh man, probably longer than any of us want to admit, right?
I
And,
know.
and and who knows what they have behind the curtain, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting because, everything now has a new AI application to it and stuff like that. And I
yeah,
actually use AI a lot because in my job, it does save me a lot of
yep,
time.
yep,
But like you said, learn how to use it when you feel it's appropriate. But I don't spend a lot of time trying to develop my prompts and stuff because I don't need that for my job, you
exactly.
know?
And
So,
I think you hit the key point is a lot of it is prompts, right? Like,
yeah,
and that's probably where will spend my time is prompt searching. So I might do logistics prompt searches or whatever. And, a lot of it is there, but then a lot of it isn't quite there. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of like everybody worried about how to build an e-commerce website, and then all of a sudden, like Shopify and Magento and Volusion come out, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So
right.
it feels like it's kind of in
Absolutely.
line with that.
Yeah. What technologies can a business implement to provide real-time tracking and visibility of their shipments that will enhance the customer experience?
Most, there's so many shipping softwares out there. There's a lot of them like FedEx, UPS, a lot of them provide the opportunity to do those things. And I think again, this comes to doing your homework. I love there's a website called G2, G2.com. But I love when people spend the time to kind of figure out like a dashboard that will work for them to plug in all of the correct shipping and sourcing software. So I could go on and on about, I won't name names now, but all these different software shipping. I think last count we used just for getting pricing alone, I think we're at about 23 different softwares to pull
Wow.
like real-time pricing for our stuff, right? But we pulled it all into one so we don't see the 23 on our software stack working on the back end. But I think that I think of it more like what's your software stack, right? Like not specifics of which one works, but which one's the best fit for you and which softwares are you going to use together. But
Mm.
most places offer their own software solution like a UPS or a FedEx, and it's more about getting that API and pulling it in correctly and getting your software stack so it fits you. So, and one like quick example is subscription software for shipping, billing, and logistics is going to look very different than independent software, and then you have it in between that has both subscription and non-subscription shipping, billing, etc. software. So it's really important that you find the right fit for you. But I love G2 as a site to just kind of get a feel for all the different software opportunities that you can have.
Yeah. What are some of the best practices for a warehouse layout, storage strategies, or even order picking that will maximize efficiency and minimize costs?
Yeah, squish together more. um, yeah, basically pack it in a size again. No, this is interesting that you asked this because we didn't really have a background in warehouse layout and stuff like that. But what we did have a background in was like user interface design.
Mm.
And so we kind of luckily, I don't know, we kind of cooked it up ourselves, but we kind of look at our warehouse and we look at the blueprint. And if the thing that really costs you money for a warehouse, if you boil it down to, it's footsteps. You want to
Oh,
reduce the amount of footsteps, right? And if you look at a blueprint of a warehouse, the same way that you would look at a website and where people use their mouse, and the whole point of e-commerce is like to reduce clicks and increase
yeah.
speed, then that really helps. I think people look at it through a different lens. And one simple thing that we did was we had bathrooms on two sides of the warehouse, but one was an executive bathroom, which gagged me. That's ridiculous, right? And one was for labor, but we just opened it up, and the amount of footsteps that dropped was incredible. Also, we like on both sides of the warehouse, we sectioned off like smoking areas, and that cut a ton of foot traffic down. So I think people are always looking at, racking, workflow, etc. But if you really take a big step back and you can just watch people daily, or you can kind of get a bird's eye view with a
Mm.
blueprint, and you go, how do we get people to stop walking around so much and reduce those footsteps? And those add up quickly because, if somebody's taking 10 extra steps to ship, 20, 30,000 of something, and you can reduce that, that's a big time saver.
Yeah.
As far as like picking, man, barcode scanning, pick to light, there's a lot of different options. But again, it just kind of comes down to like what the product is that you're pick and packing, right?
Yeah.
Or what the product is that you're kitting. Ours gets really interesting in the wintertime and in the summertime because we have to start pulling for these advent calendars. What is it, 24, 30 days? I forget how many it is. But we have to like pick from all over the warehouse. But we sectioned off an area where we just pull all that stuff in. So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, though, reducing footsteps is what it's all about to save money. And, if you work with a 3PL, challenge them, like go visit them, go tour them, go watch the people walking around and go, isn't that silly? They have to walk clear around
Yeah.
there. Like, what if you put the product there? We invite our clients. We have an open door policy, and we have our clients come all the time, and we ask them like, how would you do it different than we're doing it now? And they're shocked, but great ideas can come out of nowhere.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great point. If they're a really integral part of your business,
Yep.
you really should see their business.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of times the people that we've worked with have either worked with other 3PLs or their founders where they were packing it themselves.
Ah,
And, they're like, oh, actually, there's this little trick of if you flip the plastic thing over this way and pull the lid back, and we're like, whoa, that's like 3 seconds faster to do it. So yeah, we
exactly.
always invite them over, and sometimes we'll even have like packing competitions just to see how we can do it the fastest way possible.
Oh, I love that. We used to, when I was working in a warehouse and managing one, we used to have the, you know, box Olympics where we would see how
Yeah,
quickly people could assemble the boxes, and stuff like that.
yeah,
So, absolutely. Have a little fun while you're doing it, right?
absolutely. Yeah, we have ours, and then I love the twist that we put on the end was who can pack it the fastest. But then at the end, the teams take each other's boxes and fling them against the wall as hard as they can to see if the box will explode or not. And so many times,
Wow.
the fastest packer, the box will get shot against the wall and it doesn't quite make it.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah,
Well, so now
UPS, they'll get rough with it every once in a while.
I want to talk about something that is near and dear to a lot of e-commerce and marketplace sellers is how can a business effectively manage their inventory levels to avoid stockouts or excess inventory? Because they're paying for that shelf space, okay?
Yeah.
But they still want to optimize their storage and their handling costs. So, what do you recommend to somebody?
We recommend data first, make sure your APIs are correct. And I think that is one of the things that we unknowingly did that has brought us a lot of success is that, we probably get about 3 calls a week where if I really push a potential client, they don't know how much inventory they have and they don't know where it's at. And that's heartbreaking because that's just lost money, especially if there's an expiration date. So we've always thought of it this way of create the APIs, test, make sure the data is flowing, and then put the product into play, right? Don't
Mhm.
put the product into play and then try to build the APIs and stuff around it. So I would say people that work with 3PLs, they should really, or any kind of data or logistics company, like they really want to have real-time data feeds. There should be no reason that people can't produce that real-time thing. And if you're getting an Excel document or something like that, like run the other way, you know. So I
Mhm.
think data API feeds are key. And by having those all connected together and getting that real time read, you should be able to, in 2024, you should be able to work with people that can put everything together and give you a real time kind of inventory management. There should be no reason that you got to stop the machine to go count things.
And then you kind of help them set the benchmarks of where you think they need to be based on your history with them, or
And funny you should ask that because the AI that we use in our software now does a lot of that for us.
oh,
So
good.
that's always surprising because it'll like recommend to put certain product a certain place or move it to another facility or whatever. And you're like, well, I guess, the AI is telling us to do it. So yeah, we utilize software that really helps us make those decisions. And I think that is a great thing that AI does better than most people is if you give it historical data, it usually can forecast better than a lot of people you have on staff.
Yeah, I think when it comes to historical data, everybody has to kind of like, let's figure it out. Why is it doing this? Where the AI isn't asking why, it's just saying it is what it is,
Exactly. Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know?
There's a lot of, removes a lot of opinion and emotion.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, I would agree. Now, how does a business build a resilient supply chain that will help to mitigate the risks and disruptions?
Yeah. I think that comes down to developing a lot of great relationships with your partners.
Mm.
You can go the route of making sure everything is technologically sound, paying the most premium price and getting the best thing. But at the end of the day, you're going to lose all of your margins. So I always think that even though I want this industry to be more technology and innovation driven, it still is a relationship kind of industry. People still, call us because they say, hey, I know somebody that knows you. Very rarely does somebody see an ad, a Google ad and say, oh, that looks like a great logistics thing. I'm going to call them. Usually it's like the opposite, like they're asking around. So I think if you really want to build that resiliency, you almost have to team up versus, I don't even like to say find a partner or a client, but it's almost like team up with the right players and attack things together.
Yeah. What strategies do you think that businesses can employ that will reduce shipping times or even improve the delivery accuracy?
Yeah. Um, I think a lot of that boils down to daily KPIs for the people on the floor. One thing that we've done is we've established like real-time digital boards so people kind of see what they have to pack that day. They see how fast that they have to pack them. But I think that it's important for um, just people packing the boxes, but also managers to have a good set of a good set of processes combined
Mhm.
with accountability and combined with those kind of like real-time KPIs, because you want to have the KPIs there, you want to have the process to do it, and you want to know who's accountable. And when you put that combination of things together, then usually everything else like takes care of itself.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about omni-channel and that you can handle a lot of different channels, but I'm wondering if you have clients that you have unique challenges and opportunities because of cross-border e-com. How can they optimize their fulfillment strategies in international markets?
Yeah. Um, that is something that it always, we ship globally, and no matter what, it's a bit of a pain in the rear, right? Um, we've tried multiple different strategies, and I think at the end of the day, having the partner or employees with the right experience that are willing to kind of like
Mhm.
tackle issues. And we're talking like, things from take calls at odd hours of the day to kind of, jump on somebody in another language trying to get them to do something. But again, it boils down a lot to like the right partners with the right experience. And if you don't have those lined up, shipping internationally can become a nightmare. And I would say one mistake that we have that I would hate to see people make is when you're shipping internationally, be sure that you realize how time zones work.
Oh,
So there's certain times of the year where we kind of have staff on call like 24/7. But I remember one project we did, it included, I think, about 5 different countries. And it was like the developer is in this country, the producers in this country. And it was like really cool because it was like this global project. But man, I'll tell you what, being the logistics company, we were on the phone 24/7. And finally, like our team kind of looked up and was like, can we chill on the global projects? Like global shipping
yeah,
is one thing, but global projects are another thing. So, and I do think it's important because um, those calls will happen outside of your regular work hours, and you need to compensate and be ready for that. And it's something that I've joked about other logistics companies and entrepreneurs. Their eyes get big with the opportunity and the money, but then they forget like, oh, we got to take calls like 24/7 now. So just a silly
yeah.
little thing we had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, we're international as well, and we do Amazon UK and
Yep.
Australia and EAU and stuff like that. So we actually have staffing that works like two totally different two
Yeah.
totally different shifts so that
Yep.
somebody's always answering the phone and stuff. So yeah, it makes a difference when it's
Yep.
international like that.
Yep.
I want to talk about something that Amazon sellers probably don't think about when they are looking at logistics, and that's the reverse logistics.
Mm.
What kind of strategies do you think that a business should implement for returns, repairs, recycling? I mean, all of that different type of thing.
Yeah. It's what's funny is when we decided to do our own shipping. So 12 years ago, the first couple of years, we were actually outsourcing the 3PLs, and then nobody was doing it correctly. So we bought a 3PL and we just developed it ourselves over, a decade. But nobody told us till pretty late in the game that most 3PLs don't take returns. Like they'll have another company that does that. We've actually been in the returns game since day one, and I would
Mhm.
say some of the strategies are, first of all, make sure that your logistics company will take the return because some of them don't. Next is, I think a lot of people don't do the math to figure out like a lot of times it's just cheaper to ship another product, right? Or a lot of times people don't realize the cost of shipping something back, right? Like, let's say you're doing some samples or like a lightweight food item or whatever, you might actually just want that thrown away or people to keep them. You actually don't want the return because you don't want to have to pay for that. So many times it's probably just cheaper by the time you add up customer service, by the time you add up the shipping back to you, all of those things, it's just cheaper to ship something new. The other thing is, if you're doing a complicated product where it does make sense to take the return, you want to develop with the company you're working with a custom grading system, right? So if the return comes back like grade letter A, this is what the product looks like, this is the condition that it's in, et cetera, et cetera. B, D, and C, and each letter of those grades, you want to make sure and have crystal clear outlines of, if it's let's say it's electronics, that's a big one, right? You want to have crystal clear instructions on what the product should look like to get a letter A grading and to be resold, to get a letter B grading, C, and then D, like usually we call it D stands for destroy, right? But you want to really make sure that you establish that. And what I've noticed is that a lot of times when people are working with a company to do the reverse logistics company is pushing on them what the kind of grading system should be because they want it to kind of fit within their mold. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think the company needs to really establish what their grading system is. We have a couple of computer companies that we work with, and each one of them, when we do take the return, it's a different grading system for all of them. So yeah, but that's something that not a lot of people share, or not a lot of people know that, or they don't know that they have the ability to kind of, you should tell your logistics firm what the grading is and what to do with it. They probably shouldn't be telling you unless maybe they have a lot of experience with it. But yeah, it's really important to get that crystal clear with them. But that returns game is a tricky game.
Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes what you said about just shipping out another one and stuff, I don't think that people understand how much that adds to customer satisfaction too. Not only your bottom line, but I don't have to try to get it to some kind of a mail carrier to
Oh,
return it to, you know what
yes.
I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I think it's really important that people understand that as much as a business doesn't like returns, the customer really doesn't like returns either, you
Yep.
know? So
Yep.
you have to come to that understanding of, you know, uh, in this particular case, it's just not worth their time, our time, anybody's time. Just ship out another one.
Yep. And so many times too, like we forget to put ourselves in, like
Mm,
we're consumers, we buy online. And so many times it's like, just sit back and think about like, what would you want to happen? What would
yeah,
keep you a happy customer, right? Would you like to go through all the rigmarole and, start an account and do all this stuff no, you don't. Like you just want to be able to like do it, not talk to anybody. So many times, like I think we forget to look at ourselves through the lens of a consumer and what we want.
yeah. Like I've done in many presentations before, just put their shoes on.
Yeah, yeah,
Just put somebody else's shoes on for a
exactly,
moment and see,
exactly.
you know. Um, how can a business balance the need for speed and efficiency with a desire to be cost effective, especially in the fulfillment processes?
What's the saying? Good, fast, cheap. Pick two. You can't have all three, right? I think that that is kind of the case a lot of times, and I would say for us, we are more leaning towards really good, and I don't like to say cheap, but I'd say cost effective. Um, One thing that we do different is we let a lot of other companies focus on the 2-day shipping.
Mm,
And so, odds are if you come to us and you want 2-day shipping, like other companies, other 3PLs are probably going to get better pricing. But if you can wait a day and do 2.5-day, 3-day shipping, which is what 98% of our orders are, we can save people a ton of money by doing that. It's 3 to 5 day, but since we're in Nebraska, we're able to get 2.5, 3 days for over
mm,
98% of our customers, and we save a ton of money. So I think again, that comes to like, pick those things. And we tell that to our customers straight up. We're like, hey, we can give you 2-day pricing, but if you want to do, we average 2.5-day, 3-day and look at the savings, most people don't care. But I really do think it's that good, fast, we'll say cost effective. Pick two because you can't always have all three.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is important that I think Amazon, people think of Amazon and they think they set the standard. They only set the prime,
Yeah,
okay? 2-day
exactly.
shipping is prime. I
Hmm.
mean, there are a lot of people who are ordering still from China, through Temu and Shine and some of these other places
Oh yeah,
that they're getting it 2 weeks and they're still okay.
exactly. And I even think that, as odd as it sounds, I feel like 2 day is becoming a little bit of a thing of the past, as strange as
Mhm.
that is, because the customers have wised up to like, wait, I don't need this in 2 days. Like, I'm going to wait a couple of days and save money. But I feel like even probably more like 5 to 6 years ago, everybody had Zappos customer
Yeah.
like relationship expectations with Amazon shipping speed, right? And that's just not reality. But I think the consumers are being more flexible because over time they're starting to understand. I mean, even things like if you get it shipped to a location, you might save a little money because they're not having to distribute it straight to your house. So, and I think with time, people are just going to understand more, like more footsteps, more money, right? Even when it
Yeah.
comes to delivery.
Yeah, and I think especially in places where they're paying their own shipping,
Yeah,
this becomes even more apparent for companies who
absolutely.
have a good price on a product and they have the, consumer actually pay shipping.
Yep.
This is when people go, "Oh, you know what? Maybe 2-day isn't necessary,"
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
Because once they're paying for it, they're making the choice that, hey, they do it because it's available. It's not
Yeah.
because that's necessarily what they asked for.
Right.
Yeah.
And they will pay for it. They might not
If
know
they
it, but
want
they
it,
will pay
yep,
for
they'll pay for it.
it. Yep.
So, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that face e-com business today, and how can their fulfillment strategy help them address some of those issues?
I think that probably up until I would say right around before the pandemic. So what was that? 5 years ago, we'll call it. You could get away with a strictly e-commerce strategy. And I
Mm,
think those days are starting to disappear because there's more people advertising online. The customer acquisition cost is going up. Shipping, all of that stuff is going up because there's more things going on. And I think that if you really want a solid e-commerce strategy that will work, I think you need to start to incorporate some retail sales into that,
mm,
or other social media or more sales channels. So I think if you're just going, Amazon and your own website, you can't really do that anymore. You have to do
yeah,
more channels. And the reality still is, I don't know, what is it, like 80% of people still buy in retail stores. You really want to think about getting your product there. And then that boils down to, again, like logistics companies that can get your product to store shelves. So, which
mhm,
pains me to say because 5, 10 years ago, I was like, forget retail. You don't need to do that. Just, go all e-commerce. And that, that was the way that it was. But nowadays it's so competitive and there's so much money being thrown at it. I think that you have to have a bit of a retail strategy or
mhm.
just something that incorporates more sales channels like social media or live selling. But I think the days of having your own website and like one or two channels, I think those are kind of numbered.
Yeah, yeah. We're getting close to wrapping up, so I'm just curious about what kind of emerging trends do you see in e-com fulfillment that a business should be aware of?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, and I feel like we're kind of plowing a lot of the direction for this is omni-channel is like
Mhm,
key. So I think there's going to be more and more logistics firms that will do B2B, D2C, and social media. And frankly, even, shipping to like churches and schools or things like that. Global is more important, so I'd consider that also. And then I think a big thing too is the way that you package things up and the kind of combinations that you sell, I think need to, what we've seen in our experience and our clients doing well with this is they kind of need to cater to that channel. So, like I always tell people, you can sell on Groupon, you just can't sell the same Groupon on in Amazon, right? And you want to
yeah,
like create bundles and what you might sell on TikTok might be a special limited edition color And then maybe on your website, you only sell bundles of something, right? And I think that that's going to become more and more apparent. The way that you package things, the products that you put together, the flavors, the colors, the variety, whatever it is, I think are going to become more sales channel specific. And that's going to require a lot out of the fulfillment companies because they're going to have to take the order. They're going to have to be able to deliver to that location. And they're going to have to be able to like package it and put different products together into different bundles. And that's where we've seen, frankly, probably the most success of our clients are putting together strategic bundles around the holidays, putting together strategic promos to offload excess inventory on Groupon that you can't buy anywhere else. And I think that's more and more in just testing it, right? Because you might create a bundle and think on your website it's going to do well and it doesn't. And then you go sell that bundle, maybe on eBay or who knows, wherever, and it sells awesome. But I think you need to have a company that's flexible and buyer beware, because when you do find those like combinations of products or bundles or variations and you do hit the right sales channel, then you need your fulfillment company to be able to scale with that, right? And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
always the scary thing, and they got to have space and be ready for it. But yeah, we've seen a ton of our clients, a lot of success, especially around the end of the year, Christmas time, Cyber Monday, all Black Friday, all that stuff, and then kind of like by doing unique gifts and presents and wraps and whatever, but then rolling those clients into long-term clients after the beginning of the year. And that's only because we're being super flexible and throwing out crazy ideas on products that they can sell and bundle up.
Yeah, that's great. Paul, I really appreciate you coming on today. And I mean, there's a lot of information to unpack when it comes to fulfillment and logistics. And FBA isn't the only thing, especially if you're selling on multiple channels. Look for a logistics provider who can actually support that so that you don't have all of these different things you're trying to manage. Just go to one and manage it, right? Um,
Absolutely.
Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today on Ecom Insiders, which is sponsored by SPCTEK. Our guest, Paul Jarrett, you can see his website, bulugroup.com. And if you have questions for him, otherwise, if you have questions, you can also leave them below in the comments. And if you enjoyed today's session, please subscribe, smash that like, and listen to us for future editions of Ecom Insiders. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.